Welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. I'm Steve Gibson.
I'm Ben Matlock.
We're back.
Back again, fools.
I think technology is cooperating.
Caught you slipping last week with there's no episode. So yeah, fooled you. You thought there would be one.
Yeah, I got you, idiots.
No, we fucked up and had the nerve to try to record when the internet said no.
It's
our
I think
failure.
everything was working against us. But here's the funny thing is, and I didn't really think about it, but until almost time to record. But last week we had all sorts of technical issues. I was sick too, but I would have soldiered through that because we're
won't
dedicated.
Be soldiered through as me having a slightly harder editing job. And I drew the line. I said, no, if this isn't working right, I don't want to do it at all.
And our part of it is like our internet's been shit at home, but it was storming last week when we record. Well, a real strong band of storms is coming through right now. So as God doesn't want us to do the show anymore, he's like, we're going to fucking put a stop to this.
Well, yeah, but, hey, it's not the first time God told me to stop a podcast, and I persevered.
He said, look, you're supposed to be in charge of good and evil, and we're just holding up the second part of that deal.
Yeah, I've done multiple episodes of the show without eating and almost collapsed after we were done. So, yeah. It's very clear, like, my priorities aren't straight.
But the funny thing is, like I said, our internet at home's been shit for like at least a week. It started just like a day or two before, it wasn't. But I just now finally reset our router like 5 minutes before record because it's one of those things anymore in the modern connected smart house. There's always somebody like watching something on a tablet or TV or doing something. So every time I'm like, oh, I need to reset that. It's like, oh, but somebody's using it right now. I'll wait.
Yeah.
And it went a whole fucking week of me saying that. And I was like, I basically had to kick Tara and Lincoln off their stuff. And Lincoln was watching like Netflix or a cartoon on Netflix, and Tara's always on her phone. I'm like, I have to reset this modem.
You guys have got to stop. You're draining the modem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it seems to be working, knock on wood.
Yeah, I had that problem a lot in my home. And then I bought a 50-foot fucking cable and drilled through a wall. And now my computer's connected wired, and that's kind of solved that problem. For the most part. Sometimes like downloads can take a while, but connections are usually pretty good.
Good, yeah.
So,
but we're here.
Yeah. Did you see my tweet about my dream?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I don't know how. I like stalk your profile usually, but
I even tweeted it in peak. Like, I hope Steve sees this hours, because this was the funniest, most like self-accusatory dream I think I've ever had. And I had this dream that like me and two of my friends went to some weird psychiatrist office or something, like, and I don't know, it's that dream thing. You don't know why you're there.
Yeah. It makes sense, but like there's no explanation for it.
Yeah, like why are we going as a team? I definitely need mental health counsel, but I don't know why we're like making a group thing out of it. So we all go into this like psychiatrist office, and then like it's like a fucking Half-Life experiment where like a window opens up. It's like a glass window into another office, and this lady who's like, I assume the doctor, she just starts like saying hard truths about our like innermost thoughts and character, like not asking us questions, saying things that we actually believe. And I can't remember any of the specifics, but it's that thing of like, it's coming around to me. And all she says to me is, you blame women for diarrhea. And then I woke up and I was pissed. Because I don't blame women for diarrhea. She made that up.
yet. But see, the thing is now, slowly over the course of the next few months, you'll keep coming back to that being, wait,
the next time I have diarrhea, am I going to like think of like all the women I've met in my life and be like, son of a bitch.
She was right.
Look what they've done to me.
You blame women. That's another.
It's like everybody else is like deep seated, like real characters today. It's like, and you just have like the most random misogyny ever concocted, and like.
It's like, I'd like her to preface that with like, you still treat them with respect.
Yeah.
You never do this, but you blame them deep down.
But deep down, you think they're the reason why you have diarrhea. It was very like Salem witch trials.
Now I'm glad I didn't see the tweets because it's kind of better hearing it. Like,
I mean, yeah, I was going to tell it on the show anyway, but it's about like, you know what? That got no reaction on Twitter. And I'm like, fuck you. That's funny. Like,
yeah, we've been pretty busy this week, so I don't know when you tweeted it, but I must have just slipped through the cracks. Because I especially like.
I'll give you a hint. I should have been working, and instead I crafted that tweet.
Yeah,
but the world needs to know that this might be a part of my subconscious I'm still working through in therapy.
Now, I hope this is the episode where we make it big so that you start running into random strangers that just come up and you're like, you're Ben. You blame women for diarrhea. Like you're at like McDonald's and somebody just says it out loud. And so everybody that doesn't know who you are like, what the
I would
fuck?
love if like fans came up to me. It's like, you know, I blamed women for diarrhea too. And you talking about it on the show really helped me deal with it.
Turned my life around.
Yeah. Yeah, ladies, I'm growing. I'm trying to be better. I know logically it's not your fault, but some trauma I'm still working through. So that's your empowerment segment.
I love that you just went through a bout of stomach flu, and now I'm picturing the whole time you were sitting there like shotgun blast into the toilet under your breath muttering, fucking women.
I mean, a lot of like women issues started, like I got sick from my mom, probably.
Yeah, there you go.
So, you know.
So I guess there's a kernel of truth in there. You blamed her.
Yeah, it's mommy issues, like always. So yeah, the show's usually not about my dreams, but I'm glad
about diarrhea, so
yeah. This show's about stories.
Stories and stuff.
Stories with substance from people without any.
Why did it take you 207 episodes to come up with a perfect tagline for the show?
Because I age like mid-shelf wine, man. It takes a really long fucking time to matter.
Yeah. So stories. So what'd you got?
Nothing.
Just kidding. Yeah, it's my turn.
Yeah. I gave you a dream. Run with it. I'm the Martin Luther King of fucking random nonsense.
Yeah, I guess not. I'm not good enough to just come up with it on the fly, but next time it's my turn, I'm going to have an original story called He Blames Women for Diarrhea.
Can I put... Oh, man, I want to post that to Creepypasta. I don't know what the plot would be yet.
Well, that's the thing, is you got to make it about... It has to have nothing to do with that, but just at some point in the story, the character's like on the toilet and he's like, I blame women for this. And then you never reference it again or explain it.
I almost shit myself and it was her fault.
Yeah, I like that in like that Noir detective style. Okay. Anyway, so I got a creepypasta this week because I had a creepypasta last week because I ran out of time. And then our technical issues bought me a whole nother week. And instead of being like, okay, well, then I'll do something, I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to sit on.
I would never do that. If I had a creepypasta in the chamber, there's not like, I'm not going to do the right thing just because my internet fucked up.
Yeah. I'm going to sit on that gold mine.
Man.
Enjoy an extra week off.
I got a solid gold Crappy Pappy here ready to go.
And I had actually read through, we talk about sometimes we'll kind of just skim through these or take a shot on them because they seem interesting. I read through this one. It's all right.
Cool.
So that's setting the bar, the expectation bar. But But I forget what it's almost all about now, because that's the other thing that happens if you give me an extra week. A week is might as well be 10 years. Like,
yeah.
Once upon a time, I looked through this story.
I'm looking forward to my turn next week because I know my topic now. It's the first time I've known a topic this far ahead, and I look forward to cramming it like 20 minutes before the show.
Before the show, yeah. So this story, and you've probably come across this one because it was from our favorite go-to website, but from their like past. I don't even remember what it's called. You know the site better than me. Like the stories of the month type.
Yeah. That's the creepypasta.fandom.com. They do contests every month and shit.
So, and I know you've looked through there a lot, so you've probably come across this one, but it's called String Theory by Tesla. So it's either a shocking story or one that crashes and burns. I don't know which Tesla they're referring to.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, like I had a week to come up with that one.
It took a moment to land, but like, I like it.
Have you ever had an experience that suggested someone else was in your house and just thought, I don't want to know, and left it?
Isn't that like, anybody who's had a breaking and entering?
The criminals are like taking your stuff and they keep looking at you.
Strong suggestion. I'm not alone here.
At one point, the thieves literally like walking in front of you, like waving their hand, like you can see me, right? And you just turn your head, like la da da. I'm gonna what's over here. That first sentence is what brought me to this story because we've talked about it. I 100% do that. Like you'll hear a strange noise in your house, and instead of investigating, you're like, I'm gonna just not look that direction.
This house creaks a lot, but my old house creaked all the time, and you would just hear shit go bump downstairs. And multiple nights, like if I was alone, like you would go downstairs to the kitchen, I would grab like 2 steak knives, like I'm gonna dual wield them, and like I'm just patrolling.
Well, see, but that puts you on the active. Like I just pretend it didn't happen because I'm like, if I pretend it didn't happen, clearly nothing will happen. And
I've watched way too many slasher flicks. So it's like, it's not, I'll just pretend it's not that. It's like, no, Michael Myers is like right behind you.
These are the fun conversations to have when we're recording because my computer desk faces the wall. And so my entire back's to my basement. And basements are just kind of naturally creepy. Yeah. Even like whatever.
My back is to like a window that's like not even 5 feet behind me. And it's like to the street. Like it's a direct path. Anybody walking on the sidewalk could just come up to my window. It'd be like the Today Show, like I just got a fucking crowd of serial killers behind me. Like, yeah,
they're serial killers because those kind of crowds are always 80% from Ohio.
Yeah,
like I don't know what it is, but every time they show the Today Show and they're holding up signs, it's like Columbus, Ohio. And it's like, God damn it!
Nobody,
don't tell people that.
You're way too damn excited.
Yeah, if you're the kind of person that's excited about holding up a sign where you're from, don't. Like,
I feel so bad. Like you finally get out to like a real city to go do something, and you're like, I want to go to the Today Show.
Right.
I'm telling them I'm from Ohio. It's like that explains why you're here.
Yeah, well, maybe that's why they're all from Ohio is because there's an equal number of people from all the states. It's just the Ohio ones are the ones that everybody feels sorry for. They're like, we'll put you on camera, buddy.
To be fair, I don't know what I would do in New York either. I would probably just eat pizza.
The food's
until I die.
But I don't have New York food experience money, so I'd go there thinking that I'm gonna like check out the world famous cuisine, and then I'd end up eating at Sbarro's or something.
Well, that's why I would probably stick with pizza because pizza's great and it's big
and generally affordable.
At
least relatively speaking.
Yeah, for the amount of pizza you're getting. And I don't plan to pay anyway. I plan on dying at the table.
Solid.
All right.
So ever had an experience and you just don't want to know about? Sometimes fear of the unknown just seems like the preferable option than facing the real concrete danger. Normally it's nothing, though. One time, the beeper function on my wireless house phone went off when I was the only one home. It could only be called from the living room. Another time, I swear someone took some change from my desk. They're all probably just slightly disconcerting tricks of the memory. But what would you do when something truly suggestive happens? Would you run or just ignore it like I did?
Those are the options.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't confront it. You just...
Of course, I don't know why my weak ass is thinking like John Wick, Time for the
like
gun
the idea,
loadout scene, but it's like, those are my two choices.
And now I'm picturing you're like in the living room watching TV and somebody else is in the room. And all of a sudden, because they thought they put their cup on the table, but they forgot they actually set it like on the side table instead. They look up, don't see the cup, and they just, instead of saying, "Where's my cup?" they just scream and run out of the room. So you're just sitting there, and all of a sudden somebody's just like, "Ah!"
Yeah, full-blown panic or denial. Those are your options.
Last Monday was a normal day. I got up, brushed my teeth, changed into school clothes. All little parts of my morning ritual. It seemed like it would be another totally unnoteworthy day until I saw the strings. There were 3 or 4 thick twine strings in my room. They crisscrossed between the walls around my bed, one attached to the door. No way would I have missed them before. I should have tripped over them.
I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah, I liked that sentiment. Like, there's no way I would have missed these giant strings through my room. It's like, I hope not. Like...
I would have never missed a tripwire.
They were tied to pins in the wall, which had also not existed before 10 seconds ago. Nobody could have been in my room while I was in it, let alone set this up. It was early, and my brain wasn't processing correctly. I simply discredited the site, untied the strings, and left for school, leaving them balled up on my desk.
Nope. No one reacts that way. I would be telling everyone... Like, somebody's, like, fucking with me and trying to trap me.
It's a stretch, and I get the whole setup, like, the awkwardly, like, Twilight Zone-y type setup. Like, has anything weird ever happened and you're just like, must have been my imagination. It's like, sure, we do that all the time. And then it's like, have you ever seen your house on fire? And you're like, nah, couldn't be. And it's like, wait, there's a threshold of things that nobody would just be like, well, I imagine that. Like...
Yeah, I mean, it is not, I'm giving it shit, but it's not out of the realm of horror fiction. Like, you see it in movies all the time where a character does not have an appropriate reaction to the first weird thing that happens.
Well, yeah, like that whole, like, trope where they hear a noise and they go and their kitchen door's wide open to the outside and they look around and they're like, huh. And just close it. It's like, yeah, I'm doing a lot more investigation than that.
I must not have shut it all the way. It's like, how often do you actually do that?
And even if I do that, I go into full, it was stupidly, like you said, almost John Wick mode. Because I've had that happen before, and I'll like, I'm like SWAT team clearing my fucking house as if I could do anything.
Like the fucking Metal Gear Solid 2 guard patrol music hits is like, "Pah-dah!" And you just start storming through rooms.
Yeah, which is stupid because if it is a home invasion, I'm totally not prepared to deal with it. but I don't just be like, probably there's nobody in here. Anyway, it didn't get any better later. Outside my house, there were hundreds of them, tied between houses, around cars, across streets. This had to be some super elaborate prank. Which is also the first thing I would think.
It's a pretty good prank if you're just tying down a whole fucking road.
Right. One of those hidden camera shows or a comedy improv blog.
Am I being punked? I gotta get to work.
They had gotten everyone else to play along too. Passerby were tangled in them, tying them to objects they were walking towards and away from, as if they had been...
I would absolutely assume there's like a giant spider.
Yeah.
I would have a fucking heart attack.
So anyway, the people were walking around acting like it was completely normal. I nervously continued my journey to school. And again, there's a lot of... It didn't take a whole lot to get me to skip school. This would be one of those things. I'd be like, nope.
Yeah, like, fuck it. I wasn't at school anyway. It did not take much for me to skip fucking school. Right. But, like...
And even if you thought it was an elaborate prank, I'd be like, fuck you, I'm going back to bed then.
But I would absolutely... This would be an occasion where I would actually call out and be like, no, there are fucking strings everywhere. and I'm scared.
So I nervously continued my journey to school. On the bus, everyone except me was tied to the door. At school, groups of friends were tied to each other. Teachers were tied to their desks and boards. Oddly enough, at this point, all I could wonder is why I had been left out. Now I feel left out.
You know what? I get that too. Rejection.
Yeah. When my friend Lucy sat beside me in first period, she simply plonked her bag down on my lap and rested her chin in her hand, looking right past me to the window outside. Hey, Lucy. No response. Come on, I didn't expect you to be in on this too. She sighed and started taking the books from her bag. All the books were tied to her hands. I grinned and yanked one of the strings off a book. She didn't seem to notice, instead simply disregarding the book completely, letting it drop to the floor without a moment's hesitation. I leaned down, picking up her book and placed it back on her desk. She took no notice. Well, if that's how you're going to play it, I smiled, trying to look playful, but really just trying to hide my nervousness. I bundled all the strings attached to her together with one hand and pulled them all free.
You fool.
What have you done? She blinked, turning to stare at me. Holy crap, Martin, you're like a ninja or something. I've been sitting here for maybe 10 minutes, I smiled again, used to people not noticing me for 10 minutes. Oh, wait, that's my life. Relieved my friend had finally noticed me. Where did all these strings come from? She gasped, seemingly noticing for the first time. I assumed you were all fucking with me. Really well, too. She stood up, backing into a corner. No one else in class had noticed. They weren't here just a minute ago. Do you see them too? Her tone made it clear she was genuinely scared. No, didn't you? I was interrupted by my teacher slamming the door behind her. Everyone except me and Lucy murmured good morning, and still no one seemed to pay attention to us. Either of us. What? People have been ignoring me all day, I said to Lucy before turning to our teacher. Hey, dumb bitch, you can't teach for shit. No reaction. I like that that's what you go with, too. Because that's
you know what? I felt that vibe.
Yeah,
you know
but
what?
The wording is almost insincere. The wording to me came across, which I guess maybe it's just me projecting. It's like a kid that would never, ever, ever cuss out authority, trying to sound like, yeah.
Nice teaching, bitch.
Yeah, that's the thing that's going to get to a teacher. Be like, your teaching is questionable.
Yeah, good job. Nice assignment, fucko.
I'm getting away from all this shit. Lucy pulled a few strings aside and left the class. I followed, and surprise, surprise, no one else noticed. We wandered the corridors, leaving and entering classes as we saw fit. Whenever we untied a chair or a book from someone else, it was like it suddenly didn't matter to them. It didn't exist. I showed her the street outside. There were more strings than when I came this morning. Twice as many. We carefully picked our way through the tangle, making our way to a nearby coffee shop. Not particularly grand, I know, but what would you do in our situation? Not go get fucking coffee.
I mean, I would go get free shit. Nobody seems to care. I don't know why I go right to petty crime, but...
Well, it's funny because you say petty crime. I was thinking I'd go find the cocaine dealer and be like, yoink, you don't care about this anymore. I clearly need some. It's like, something's fucked up here.
It was like, finally, my opportunity for this shit you can get in any club bathroom.
As I said, fear of the unknown sometimes seems like the safer option. On a few occasions, I suggested we untie a few more people. Lucy was opposed to it, remembering how terrified she'd been. In the coffee shop, we grabbed a couple of sandwiches and drinks from the fridge. We found a table, untied all the strings attached to the chairs, and sat down. We both ate in silence, both of us too scared, both of us distracting ourselves by watching the strangers in the shop, oblivious to the strings.
It says more about me, I think, but I'm kind of like, it would get old, but that wouldn't be too bad for the first day. Like, everybody's still doing their thing, so it's
yeah,
not
like once you kind of figure out what's going on, I get it, at first you'd be like, what the fuck are all these strings?
Yeah,
and then
it's
you're like, well,
it's,
this is
just basically everybody's completely ignoring you, and I want that for most of my life.
And you can make them ignore whatever you want to take from them. So it's just like, yoink.
Yeah, and
it's not even really stealing because they quit caring about it. So you're like, all right, this is mine now. Like,
eventually somebody's going to order that exact thing I want from McDonald's and I slide in.
See, now we're both on the same page. We're getting to where we'd be doing the same. Now I'm picturing, though, like, you in this situation waiting in line at McDonald's to like slide in and take their order, then me walking in and be like, oh, hey, you too, huh?
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't like team up or talk about it or anything. You just both sit there next to each other. Like, yeah.
No, I think I'd be pissed. Like, I thought I was special.
How about that weather? God damn it, I thought I was done with small talk.
Yeah.
Like, after 20 minutes, Lucy spoke up. Now she's going to take that sandwich, she said, pointing at a woman across the shop. Sure enough, she walked over to the fridge and took the plastic-wrapped sandwich she was tied to. She pays for it and leaves. She did so, according to the prophecies of the strings. That guy doesn't intend to pay. I watched as the man took his coffee and ran out of the store. The two servers just looking too exasperated to go after him. Now we make an entrance in the story. As both the coffee thief and the guy behind the counter that's like, they're paying me minimum wage. Take your, I don't fucking care.
Like one, if you worked any of those jobs, you are told not to go after them.
There's always that one tryhard though that tries to yeah.
But it's like a liability thing.
Over a $2 cup of coffee.
I did have a boss tell me I was supposed to chase somebody one time. And it was funny because it was Hastings and we were closing anyway. And I was like, I'm not chasing a thief. Fuck you.
I know I've talked about it on the show, but when my first job was at a grocery store, and they had a lost control special security guy. And he was one of those, overzealous, I'm going to Rambo this job. Nobody's stealing from me. And he literally almost got killed on the job twice, stopping shoplifters. It's like, no.
I mean, the people stealing shit and stuff like that, it's like, it's not people who need, a fucking, saucepan. These are people, trying to do anything they can to get, drug money. Mm-hmm. And if you get in the way with that, they do have a knife.
Well, and like I said, I know I told the one story. The one guy was this guy that loaded up his whole cart full of booze and just walked out with it. So I don't know if he was after drug money. He was after a cart full of fucking booze.
Yeah, that too. That happened a lot at the grocery store.
Yeah, and I respect that. He stomped the security guard not an inch of his life. He wasn't in the ICU for weeks, but he broke multiple ribs, and kicked him in the head. Yeah. Turned out the guy had multiple warrants out for murder. So some guy that you probably don't want to stop when you're making grocery store security guard pay. Take notes, call the cops and say, if you guys aren't busy and you care, go deal with this. If not, Kroger has more than enough money to make up for the loss.
That's why I would say, if you are a shoplifter, you could probably, most of the places I've worked, you could probably beat up the security that was there. But don't, because they really, most of them won't actually chase you. They'll do the half run thing. Yeah. So just give it a good sprint down the block with your cart of booze and they'll give up and you'll get your booze and nobody has to die.
Right. You might get a nice spot on the local news for a day or two, local booze thief. Here's the grainy picture of him. If you know who this blob is, and nobody does because for some reason,
swindler.
I can afford an 80,000K resolution camera for my, own personal use if I want. But all these stores and their security cameras are from 1972. I don't get it.
If your alcoholism's that fucking desperate too, still the shit nobody wants. People don't need Jägermeister anymore. Take all that.
Yeah. Sour pucker. The only people drinking that are people under 21 anyway.
Yeah, I mean you're down to die under the bridge anyway. Who cares what you throw up?
Right. Anyway, so Guy ran away, and the two workers were just like, this is horrible, she whimpered. Let's go, please. Outside wasn't much better. Everyone just followed the string's instructions, going about their daily lives. Lucy announced that she was going to go home and sleep this off, and I agreed to walk her home. She only lived 10 minutes away.
It's not a headache. Like, these are physical things. Like,
I know. I like the idea that, like, I'll go to sleep and it'll just be better when I wake up. Because I could see myself coming to that conclusion. But the reality in a situation like this is you probably go to sleep and wake up and it'll be worse. Like, not better.
Probably. Like, I would definitely go to sleep. But it's because
that's kind of my natural defense mechanism for everything.
It's pretty much. Like, I go... Like, bears hibernate for, winter. I hibernate if I have to, like, call somebody on the phone for real.
Right. There's a meme going around recently, and it's probably gone around before because who knows, how the internet and their memes are, but it's just that it was the template that, like, guy that's about to get shivved, and the regular guy's like, just me on any given day, and then the guy about to do the shivving is, like, a scheduled phone call, and it's like, that's me at work. Like, if I know there's, like, a meeting or, like, a webinar or even just a client that's like, oh, I'll call you tomorrow at 10. It's like, you feel like you're about to get murdered. No matter how easy the call is, it's just like,
yeah,
it's coming.
It's just like, to me, it's like, you gotta turn on that, how's it going? Like, that fucking personality that I don't actually have.
I know the amount of clients we have that think I'm a positive person. It's weird.
Yeah,
I'm good at it, I guess.
I put up a veil of, like, it's funny because you actually know me, but, like, I put up a veil of, like, I'll just roll with the punches, I'm cool with everything. And it's like, I'm actually just, like, a very irritable ball of rage.
Well, and I know I've said this before, but Tara she's always so good about, like, she'll meet a random person and become, like, best friends with them. And then be like, oh yeah, we're going to go to this restaurant and have dinner with this person and her husband's coming and you'll like him. I'm like, I guarantee I won't. He could be the best person. He could be the best person who's ever lived, but I'm being forced to talk to a stranger.
Yeah. It's like a zoo animal be like, yeah, you might like that other tiger, but you're putting me in a cage with another tiger. And
the bigger point is she's like, oh, but you're always, you get along with everybody. You're good at it. It's like, yes, but it's so fucking exhausting. And now I guess it gives me some perspective on how, like, actors feel that have to play a role.
Yeah.
That said, there's been a lot of times she's had friends that, you get to meet their husbands and you're like, oh, they're kind of cool. I like hanging out with them. But it's that first, like, initial, like, you get to talk to a stranger over dinner. It's like, fuck me.
Yeah, like, combine something I love, which is, like, food and eating out, with the discomfort of, like, having to do it in front of somebody I've never met before.
Right.
And I'm expected to, like, make a good impression with.
I know. I sometimes wish it could be, because there's been multiple times too where it's like, oh, these people aren't, they're kind of cool. They're into some of the same stuff that we are, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, and this one Marvel movie sucked because it was so woke, and it's like, God damn it. Yeah. It's like, I want to be one of these
To be fair, I would probably have a pretty good conversation with them where I'm like, that's not why it sucked.
Yeah, I'm very non-confrontational, so I'll just be like, yep. I'll change the subject and then avoid dinner with this person ever again.
I don't know. I'm pretty good. Like, I worked with a lot of conservatives at my last job, and you get pretty good at finding common ground with people you don't really have any with. Or you're just like, yeah, but you know what? Hillary Clinton sucks. We agree on that. See you later.
Yeah. That's kind of my go-to, is when they're like, oh, because I'm also in an extremely conservative area, so it's very common for people. I multiple times a week, people like, this country's gone to shit and it's Biden's fault. And it's like, my default response is all politicians suck, because it's true.
Yeah. Like, to me, it's like, if somebody says that to me, it's like, you're not wrong. You just don't understand why you're wrong.
Right.
It's not because they're not, yeah. It's not because they're not right enough. It's because they're too right.
Yeah. But anyway, so she's going to go home and
take a nappy poo.
Away from the busier part of town, there were fewer strings. It was nicer. We could pretend it wasn't happening. When we...
Fuck, dude.
When we turned onto Lucy Street, I know this guy, he very much has the avoidant, when I say I avoid conflict, this guy's like to the extreme.
Like he warned us too. He said, like, do you fucking, do you run away or do you deny it? Like, he's doing both.
I'm going to write a sequel to the story where he gets shot in a robbery, like he's a bystander and he gets shot and he's just like, no, I didn't.
Yeah. I guess I didn't say it was a he or she in the story, so it could be both, right?
That's true. That's very true. I assumed he.
Either way, the narrator, rather, is very good at avoidance.
When we turned onto Lucy Street, she stopped, her mouth falling open. What now? I broke the silence, my voice sounding surprisingly small. Look, she pointed outside one of her neighbor's houses. I saw it clearly, and I'll take my memory of that moment till the day I die. Take it... Wait, okay. A little dark imp, maybe 3 feet tall, walking along with its knuckles on the ground, almost like a monkey.
That's adorable.
Yeah. I said, here, impy, impy, impy. I started clicking my tongue.
Come here, give me a big ol' hug.
It had 2 bulbous yellow eyes taking up about half of its face, and no mouth or any other facial features. It was holding a hammer and a ball of twine, which it was letting out behind it. It walked quickly and quietly from the front door of the house to the mailbox. It stopped, hammered a nail into the side of the box, and tied a string around it. It turned to face us, then stopped when it spotted us. This next line I loved. My bottom fell out even further than it had already been.
My bottom hit the flow.
But it just stared with a look of surprise and curiosity. Like, I've heard of the bottom falling out of stuff, but I've never seen it used in that way. Like, my bottom fell out
my
even
ass
more.
plummeted.
Right. Maybe it's a creative way of saying I nearly shit myself.
My butt hit the abyss.
You could almost say it was the more frightened one. Suddenly, it beckoned to us with its tiny hand. Again, I don't know that this person knows emotions. It's like, it was frightened, so it motioned for us to come to it. It's like,
Well, I mean, if I'm scared of something, but I have a hammer.
That's true. It's like,
I might be like, come on, let's go.
Come within hammer range, please.
Yeah. Please let me bop you so I'm not scared anymore.
You are currently outside of the range of my hammer. I need you.
I'm not
need
fucking Mario.
Closer.
I can't throw this and get another. Like, you gotta come here.
I looked at Lucy. She hadn't moved. I looked back at the imp, which stared at me. I halved the distance between us, then halved it again. This wasn't fear of the unknown anymore. It was fear of this little guy. Didn't seem like anything to be scared of.
I like the little guy.
Right, that's what he's saying, or she's saying. Like, oh, now that I know what it is, and it's an imp with big eyes, I'm not afraid anymore.
Yeah, it's just causing a little ruckus.
When I was a meter away from it, it extended its hand and bopped me with the hammer.
And fucking crushed my cranium.
Lucy just said, well, that sucks. Hi. I shook its hand. It nodded in approval. So they're polite little imps.
Yeah, buddies.
So you're the ones in charge of the strings. It nodded eagerly. I called Lucy over. Hey, Lucy! But she stayed where she was, because she's not an idiot like I am.
Hey, Lucy, it's the string bitch.
There are more of you? Another nod. I wanted to ask it so many questions about what it was and where it came from. But it seemed to know I was stuck with only yes or no questions. Or for now, I was stuck with it. Do we even have free will? It just looked at me, almost sadly. I immediately felt sick to my stomach, and couldn't bear looking at the little monster anymore. I like that it immediately...
Did I really hate you that hard? Like...
And that they immediately jumped to that question, like, what the fuck are you? Where'd you come from? It's like, well, it can only answer yes or no, so I'm going right to the free will question.
I mean, hey, that's... I respect
it's
seizing the moment, yeah.
It's smarter than me. It'd take me a while to kind of put that together, be like, oh, so you guys do the strings, and it makes people do stuff.
I mean, I see this little guy bopping shit with a hammer. I'd be like, I'm going to keep you. and then like not talk to it at all.
I would ask him, like, can I borrow your hammer and some twine? I want to make people do some stuff. Like, can I join your ranks?
But at the same time, like, I don't need to see a string guy fucking to answer the free will question. Like, the answer's no.
No.
Of course you don't.
I do have Free Willy, though, on VHS.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. It's more valuable than any choice you could ever make.
I grabbed Lucy, who had been listening to our exchange, and now sat on the curb with her head in her hands. Come on. We entered her house and I made her a cup of tea. We just found out you have no free will and these magical creatures exist. Would you like some tea?
That's the most fucking English approach to anything.
When I found her in the living room, she had untied her dog and was curled up with it, crying. I set the tea down and sat beside her. I'm so scared, she whispered after a good 10 minutes of sobbing. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I'm going to sleep, she mumbled. And she was asleep in under a minute. Sleep was starting to sound pretty good all of a sudden. My eyelids suddenly felt like they were being weighed down. I collapsed to the rug, and the last thing I heard before I fell asleep was the scurrying of several sets of little feet nearby. I felt much better the next day, as if the whole affair had been a dream. I'd probably believed that if I hadn't been awoken by Lucy's mother that morning, wondering what I was doing sleeping over without permission or something. So, Lucy's mother didn't bother waking you up or asking you this question the whole day that you were, like, asleep on the floor in the living room.
I've had friends' parents like that.
Yeah.
To be fair. It's
That's
like,
true.
We'll grill them when they wake up. You know?
Yeah. They're so sweet when they're asleep. I'll let them sleep.
Yeah.
Over breakfast...
Well, what the fuck drugs did you do?
You were asleep at noon in my living room, and you slept till the next day. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there was no drugs. It's called being 15.
Over breakfast, Lucy asked me why I looked so pale and nervous. I turned to her and smiled, mumbling something to her about feeling sick. But the truth was, I was scared because I couldn't see any strings, and was wondering whether my actions were truly my own. The end.
I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually like the idea that we're all on strings of little goblin guys.
Kind of like this puppet master thing without being like the literal Pinocchio.
It explains the world so much better than any like any other form of fate and destiny. Is like it's just the whims of some little guys with hammers and string.
Plus, it gets really fun. The story never addresses like the bad stuff, but it makes you think about like the people that walk out, like get hit by cars, and it's like, oh,
yeah, they're not thinking about shit.
Right, but that tells you that these imps, it's like, did the imp just get pissed at you because you said something? Like, maybe they were sitting there one day and they're like, you know what I hate? Fucking imps. And then imp's like, oh, yeah? Fuck you, buddy.
I just imagine like the imps just don't know anything about causality. So they just know they gotta like keep attaching strings to shit to keep things moving.
That's true, too. Like, that's an almost better idea.
They don't know how that show will clash.
Yeah, like I kind of like that thought too. Like these aren't higher beings or intelligent design. It's just they're just like these creatures that attach strings to shit. And that's just what they do. They don't know why they do it.
Yeah. Does anything do anything? You know. That is not a typical horror story.
Yeah,
but it's definitely like thought provoking because. Damn, yeah. I like that idea.
Yeah, I felt like it has a really good point. Like, I feel like it didn't necessarily capitalize on it to the best of its...
you could have taken the idea further.
Yeah, and it was just kind of awkwardly written. But as we said, interesting again, that's the nature of these stories a lot of times anyway. Yeah. But it is, like to me, it didn't quite, like... hammer it home in a way that you really sit back and immediately go, well, damn. But it is one of the scarier, like, Twilight Zone-y things to realize, like, maybe I don't have any control over anything at all.
I guess, like, it kind of depends. And, we're not going to solve the philosophical debate about free will on the show.
I disagree. I think we could.
But I solved it years ago, and the answer is no. You don't have free will.
Which I guess is funny too, because it could be. I could see people that would find that out, like real concrete proof that they have no free will, and they'd freak out like the character did. I am too laid back of a person. I'd be like, one less thing to worry about. I don't have to ask why about stuff anymore. Just let me float along like a bag in the breeze.
Well, you can, like, that's the thing, is like, to me, it's, you have the illusion of free will. You have the illusion that you're making choices. But in my worldview, everything that you are has been set in motion, fucking
by
billions and billions of years
right.
ago. You, like, and so you will make the same choice 100 times out of 100, like, because that's who you are. That's the material you're made of. And that's how it reacts to the situations you're in. So the idea that, like, I made a choice, it's like, you did, but, like, you're a product of, like, your brain chemistry and your environment, and they're always going to make those same decisions. Or it's an imp guy.
Yeah.
And I like that idea too.
Well, or it's completely random, in which case, if everything's completely random, you say you're a product of your past and the world around you and blah, 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 blah. Or the other thing is, like, every decision's kind of randomly happens at the point of the decision-making process, in which case you still don't have free will because then it's random.
That's what I mean. It's like, you're not... We like to think we have choices, but, like, you imagine, like, a split path, in life, where you make one, you go left or you go right. But the truth is, like, in some cases you're always going to go left. In some cases you're always going to go right. It's not, there's a reason you don't do the other thing whenever you make a choice in life.
Yeah. And I'm like the epitome of that. That's why every time I try to replay a game like Mass Effect, I'd be like, okay, now I'm going to do the other choices. Like 10 minutes in, it's like, nope, making the same choices I made the first time, because that's... I mean,
yeah, I relate to that, but it's also like, even for the people who do different playthroughs of that game, there's a reason you play through it the way you did the first time, and those are like, that's a very simplistic example of, like, decisions we make every day. But the point being that, like, our decisions are not, our decisions are chosen from who we are.
Nope. Now I'm going to become Two-Face. I'm carrying a coin around with me, or the guy from No Country for Old Men.
But even that's not a choice, because, like, the coin is flipping based off of the energy you put into it and gravity and stuff. And, like, in that exact circumstance, that coin is going to come up the same result every time. The only thing that's different with every coin flip is the situation and how much you're flipping it, But in that exact moment, the coin flips the same amount of times, You can tell I think way too much about this shit.
You spent hours trying to devise a coin that won't flip the same every time, and you're like, fuck, I can't do it, because the nature of what I'm just saying means that
it's only, like, but that's what I mean, is, like, the thing of, like, Two-Face is, like,
well,
this is
Two-Face was a bad example, because isn't his coin double, like, both sides are heads? Like,
no,
he always...
it was, and then he got burnt, and his coin got burnt. So now it is actually a regular coin. So one side's, like, fucked up and the other's not. But the thing is, he's like, this is fair, and it's like it only seems fair, and it only seems like fate's deciding, because you don't know the outcome of it when it flips. But again, like, everything in place exactly in that moment, when you flip it, it'll be the same result every time. The only reason it's different when you flip a coin every time is because it's a different situation with a different amount of force applied to it. That's my lecture.
I'm making a coin flipping machine that uses the exact same amount of force and hits it at the exact same point, and we'll see if it always lands on the same.
It would if you did it exactly.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Is
like I'm not like you don't. I know.
I'm just. And the thing is that in real life, like you could come up with a machine that hits. They could devise one where it does land on the same, but someone like me, I don't have enough control over all the variables, the important variables.
And also, it's worth pointing out, this is a stupid thing to, like, it would be dumb to try to.
I guarantee if they haven't already, there's somebody that will one day get a thousands of dollars grant to see if they can make a machine that makes a coin always land on heads. Like, that's the kind of stupid shit that you see in science all the time.
Totally. I mean, science is always dicking around with shit that's not that important.
And like the less important it is, the more exciting the results seem to be. It's like for everybody.
More it costs.
Yeah.
Like we'll find out it's cheaper to get to the moon than make a machine that can flip the coin the same way
every single time.
Every time.
But anyway,
then we take that machine to the moon, and then it fucks the whole thing up because they have different fucking gravitational forces.
Yeah, but NASA's got its top guys and girls on it. And
top imps. Top strings.
Top strings. Yeah, that would be great to have control over those strings, because then you could accomplish whatever you want. You just stick a pin on something.
But again, like, to me, the big takeaway there is, like, wow, we get a day where, like, nobody notices us.
Right.
Like, I don't even need to be in control. I can just, like, take sandwiches and shit.
They truly did not take full advantage of that situation.
Yeah, I thought Lucy was a real, like, buzzkill.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this was a pretty cool thing, and we met a cool imp guy out at the end, and you're crying.
And he didn't even, like, immediately be like, scream and, like, start sticking pins into you and reattaching you.
Yeah,
it was just
sort of,
cool, good for you.
It was just that kind of, like, never mind the imp behind the curtain. Like, just, yeah. It was like, yeah, well, go to bed, and I'll fucking hammer some strings into you when I'm done here.
Yeah, they got nailed in their sleep, didn't they?
Yeah, well, that's bad. Yeah. That's assault. Now I hate them.
So anyway, that was my 2 weeks worth of creepypasta story.
Yeah, I think it was good. I
liked it.
Yeah,
that's why I picked it.
I like the thought experiment of it. You picked it, but you didn't write it.
I didn't.
And
I didn't really pick it. It was, predetermined.
It chose me.
Right. Yeah,
that's true.
So, imps, if you're listening, if you could predetermine some more topics for me for future.
If you could just, like, get these things to show up a little quicker before we just have to do the show.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. And give me a string that, like, actually gives me energy to do this shit.
Yeah.
I'd love to give that a shot one week.
Again, you're going to find yourself just, like, not even thinking about it, just going and purchasing some, like, cocaine. And you're like, you just do it, then you stop for a second, like, wait a minute, why did I do that? Oh, yeah.
This reminds me of an episode where I begged for more energy, and next thing I knew, I had a fucking amphetamine addiction.
I think I'm just stuck on that because I'm on the part of Peaky Blinders where the one brother's getting hooked on cocaine.
I love this fucking cocaine. Told me I love the fucking powder.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's the show. Yeah.
So
yeah, next time on Peaky fucking Blinders, I'll have a thing. So, see you next week.
Bye-bye.